doing the second chapter. And so far we have looked at Arjuna's that transition, that shloka where he expresses that, Shishyasteham Shadi Mam Tvam Prapannam. I am your disciple. And this is a famous picture many of you would have seen, of Arjuna kneeling down on the ground and with his hands prostrated to the Lord. So there is that attitude of surrender. So all his vikshepa, his mental disturbance, he kind of realizes that he cannot resolve it by himself. So sometimes what happens, like from a psychological point also, when we become sad or when we become upset with something, it is not like it is a new thing that has come. There is a some layer of sadness which is already there. As we go through life, there is already some kind of sadness, disappointment, unhappiness, which is there, So some situations trigger that. So the place, situation, circumstances, they trigger that. And then you realize that this is very deep. There is a deep level of unhappiness and sadness. And this is the human condition. So even though we are experiencing some degree of excitement and happiness here and there, that there is a complete sense of incompleteness in us. And we are constantly trying to fill that up. There is this is where, that our last prayer, which we generally do, Purnamada, Purnamidam, Purnat, Purnamudachyate. So that is where, we are asserting that wholeness, that completeness is in that Lord or is in that pure nature of my consciousness. And that is what I want to abide in. That is what I want to live with. So in order to abide in that, in order to realize that, because unless we realize that, we will never be happy. So that completeness within us, if we cannot find, then no matter where we go, we will not find that. So that is that condition that Arjuna now realizes that there is something that I'm not able to resolve. Right? He brings that to the Lord and recognizes him. And with an attitude of being a student and attitude of being a shishya. Shishya is like the one, see, there are different kinds of things. So one is a regular student, a school going student. He wants information. He just needs to know things. He's not a shishya as such. He wants to get skills, knowledge, information. And then there are those who take up certain kind of apprenticeship, or they want to learn some music, they want to learn. So they'll also have gurus, like Dronacharya for all the things. He was a guru, but it is again, he's there to give them some skills. So you have to follow the guru there. You have to surrender in that sense of what he tells you to do. But a real Shishya is the one who is giving up that self. The one who takes the Lord or that some kind of guru is the one who is giving up that ego, that you are willing to let go of your notions, your attitudes, your wrong held beliefs, and your kind of need to assert that separate self, separate identity. So that is the difference, everyone else who gives something to the guru, or like if you go to a school, you give money, right? And you go to somebody to train, you may give some service. So those are all things that you're offering. So here you are doing samarpana. It is not arpana, it is samarpana. In that samarpana, you are giving that complete self. So you're willing to change, you're willing to give up your wrong notions, your attitudes. Then that knowledge and the wisdom and that blessings of that divine that God and whatever you take as your guru, that can flow through and transform you. So that is where he's moving towards. Traditionally, we see that when somebody goes to a guru to get vidya or Brahma vidya or higher teachings and all that. We have in our traditional things, you go to some ashram or some guru who is in some Himalayan kutir somewhere, and you ask for teaching there. So there the environment is secluded, it is conducive and all that. But here it is not like some ashram or some divine place he's going. He's asking for teaching in the battlefield. And Krishna will give him the teaching not in a perfect setting. He's going to give that teaching in his battlefield. So, similarly, the Bhagavad Gita teaching is something that is given to us in our daily life, in our daily circumstances, so that we may face our life circumstances. So, this is a uniqueness of Bhagavad Gita. Every other thing, like you want to study Upanishad, like we say, Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, then you have to go to the Aranya, that forest. So every kind of higher Upanishad teachings, you have to go to the ashram. Of course, there's a value in all that, and here we take it that Arjuna has done some sadhana, but still that teaching that is given is so that he can face his life, such circumstance. So so this teaching is given for each of us based on our circumstances, our life circumstance, our situation, and in our battlefield. Our battlefield may not be the Kurukshetra battlefield, but it is our own battlefield. So, in order to face that, that teachings is given. So, what happens now is that right now that in this class, the actual teachings will begin from this shloka 10 of this chapter 2, or the shloka 11, we can say. The starting from that shloka number 11, the actual 11 and 12, those are the main when the Lord starts speaking. So the Lord has already spoken. There were two shlokas before, but in that he didn't give teachings. He was just kind of scolding or chastising Arjuna for his weakness or for his deluded attitude. So there he didn't give any specific teaching. Now that Arjuna is asking, he's saying, I'm ready, give me the teaching, guide me, I'm lost. And he says that Karpanya dosha patasva bhavaha. My nature has become like that of a miser, he says. So, what is that? That when a miser, what happens is a miser is somebody who is holding up money. Like, for example, if somebody wants to retire, then he holds up a lot of money because you don't know how long you will live, right? You will live for 100 years, 120 years. So, there's a lot of holding up of that money. Then what happens? That attitude becomes very, like your mind becomes constricted, right? You're also not able to have that peace, that joy. So he recognizes that his mind is kind of stuck. His mind is like stuck like a miser who is grasping onto money. Similarly, Kripana, that person who is a miser is called as Kripana. My mind has become like a Kripana, he says. So there is a beautiful a metaphor for this, or another way to look at miser from Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. So there it is said, who is a real miser? So the person who dies without realizing his true nature, who dies without knowing consciousness, that person is a true miser, according to the Upanishad. So there, the teaching is given by Yajnavalkya to Gargi, that she asks him a lot of questions. So he's a Yajnavalkya is a realized master. So he tells her, miser is true. It is a person who's holding on money is a miser, but a real miser is one who dies without knowing what his true nature is. So similarly, like here, this teaching that will be given to Arjuna will not start with how you can relax, how you can feel better. He's going to start right away at the level of pure reality, that paramarthika teachings. He will not give him the relative teachings. like what you can do, like, you go to um, some self-help teacher, or these days even yoga and all, they'll give you some practical tips. How do you deal with the anxiety? How do you deal with some kind of physical problems and all that? So here he's giving him not that kind of teaching. He's going to tell him directly the highest truth. So this is where we say, once that some tradition, some teachers are like this, they will focus on first giving you that higher reality. So you get that complete vision where you want to go. What is that delusion that you're caught up with? And then after that, you can start your practices. No, you can slowly, step by step, do the practices. So that knowledge, that wisdom, that Sankhya Yoga, that is what the Lord is going to give now, and He's going to start right away explaining that reality. Okay, so let us look at the shlokas. Now, the I think what we will do is, those of you who have your own Sanskrit versions, you can refer to that. I will project that our Gita Mananam 1, because this will not have any issues if we put the video. Otherwise, the other ones, if I put, we'll have to take permission. So. Okay, So, so these were the Mananam we had, for this shloka. With right understanding and awareness of weakness and limitations can be transformed into spiritual traits of humility and reverence. So when we feel stuck, that is when we need more and more to recognize that we need to have that humility, to ask, to learn, to seek that. So am I humble enough to acknowledge that I don't know everything? How can I open my mind and become receptive to the life transforming truths of rishis and spiritually evolved guides in my life? So this is where, we all have to reflect every now and then. Okay, so let us start from here. And so again, as I said, those of you who wants to do the exact Sanskrit pronunciation, you can refer to something you have. Okay. Let us start from here again. Sanjaya Uvacha. Those of you who want can repeat after me. एवमुक्त्वा ऋषिकेशन्
एवमुक्तऋषिकेशम्
गुडाकेशः परन्तप न योत्स्या इति गोविन्दम् उक्त्वा तूष्णीं बभूवः तमुवाच ऋषिकेशः प्रहसन्नीव भारत सेनयोरुभयोर्मध्ये विषीदन्तमिदं वचः श्रीभगवानुवाच अशोच्यानन्वशोचस्त्वम् प्रज्ञावादांश्च भाषसे गतासु न गतासूंश्च नानुशोचन्ति पण्डिताः न त्वेवाहै जातु नासन् न त्वन्नेमे जनाधिपाः
न
मे जनाधिपः
न चैव न भविष्यामः
न चैव न भविष्यामः
सर्वे वयमतः परम्
सर्वे वयमतः परम्
देहिनोऽस्मिन् यथा देहे
देहिनोऽस्मिन् यथा देहे
कौमारं यौवनैर्जरा
यौवनं जरा
तथा देहान्तरः प्राप्तिर्
तथा
देहान्तरप्राप्तिर्
धीरस्तत्र न मुह्यति
धीरस्तत्र न मुह्यति.
Okay, let us look at this first. So first, Sanjaya, as who is narrating, he gives what happens after this. So he tells there to Arjuna, he narrates there that after saying this to Rishikesha, Rishikesha is the name of the Lord. It means the one who has controlled the senses, or the one who is in control of senses, or the consciousness, that Lord who controls all senses, uh, from whom originates all kinds of power for the senses. So the Arjuna surrenders to the Lord, saying, "I will not fight," and he keeps quiet. So that is there, that part. And then here he says that after seeing this, after seeing Arjuna's plight condition, in the middle, so he's just reaffirming that they have not moved, they have not gone to some corner and then they're going to talk. Right in the middle of the two armies centered there. So this is again an illustration. Some of you will see, the two armies are there, and in the middle, Krishna and Arjuna are there discussing, talking. The teachings is given. And with a smile, he talks, meaning he starts talking with a sense of reassurance. So now what does he say? And this is where the actual teachings begin. Actually, the first verse here again is not the actual teachings, but here it sets the thing for the actual teaching. So from here, the Lord starts saying, Ashocya nanvashochastam prajnavajdanscha bhasase. So he again starts with a little bit of chastising, whether Arjuna is ready for the teachings or not. Sometimes gurus are testing, like is this person ready to listen? So he kind of starts to scold him and says, "You are talking as though you know everything. You're talking as though you're wise enough, Uh, just take this. So you're trying to tell that you know Pandita, You are talking as though you're a Pandit. Pandit is generally we say the one who knows a lot of things, but actual word for Pandit is the one who knows the self. But here, of course, he said as though you're intelligent. You're talking as though you're intelligent. And what is that? What is why he is saying like this? Gata sunscha nanushochanti panditaha. So your words may have that wisdom, but yet you are speaking about those. You are grieving for those who should not be grieved, meaning those who are dead, who people when we die, So there is a normal tendency to grieve for those. And he says not just that, even for the living who have not yet died, you don't have to grieve for them in their suffering. So this is where, as I mentioned, he's starting with that high level of teaching. So let us try to understand what is this, what is he saying, is that when somebody dies, it is natural for us to grieve, right? It is a natural human reaction, emotion. But from a spiritual perspective, uh, that grieving is actually based on we are grieving with that belief this person who was a body is gone, meaning is no longer there. But inherently, even in our culture, we will say, this person has gone or he's no more, he's moved on. These languages we use. So what is it implying? That some entity, some conscious being had come into this body and this being has moved on. Hmm? So whether we accept reincarnation or not, this is a general kind of notion many people have, that when somebody is dead, something moves on. What is it that moves on? So that is where, he's saying you're focusing on this person as the body itself. But that Atma or Jiva, that consciousness, is just an indweller in that body. It is not the body itself. Huh? So if you think that your grandfather or your teacher will die, and you're grieving about that, and then they're gone forever, that is the wrong understanding, he's saying. Huh? And also, if you look at it from a very practical point, grief. So when we at some point or the other we have to move on, right? Everybody has to move on. When you lose some close person, you die or whatever happens, you have to move on. So what happens to most of us? We are not willing to move on because we are clinging on to that wrong idea that this person was the body or this person is meant to be with me forever. So these are kind of the notions we have of life, huh? That life is always going to be this, life is always going to, so that sense of wanting permanence, that sense of wanting fixity, things should be like this always, like a house. I have built a house, this house should always be like that, nothing should happen, huh? So these are the wrong things. The person who believes that my body is like that house, it will live forever, or for as long as it's there. It will also go someday, right? The body will go and the house will go, which actually reminds me, I studied with an acharya near high up in the mountains near Ganga, for some time. He was a very well-known acharya, meaning he was not like famous and all that, but he was very highly realized and he was not interested in going out and teaching. So we would all go and study with him. So he was staying somewhere. Then one time some people came him and they said, we will give you some money. Why don't you build a kutir? There is a land available near the Ganga. Why don't you buy a kutir? So somehow it worked out. Different people gave him money, and he built a kutir right by the Ganga. And this is many people do that in higher up in the hills, Uttarkashi, Gangotri, right by Ganga. They will build a kutir because the lands you get easily there. Not many people will come build that close, and also as a sadhu, nobody will obstruct. Will say you cannot build here. I mean, of course, now there are rules. But anyway, so he built that kutir, and I don't know how long, maybe a couple of years or 3 years he was there. Then when that rainy season time, the Ganga water comes up. So one time there was a cloud burst. The clouds burst and the sudden water surges, Ganga water surged up. This happens to many people. So right at night, midnight, somebody woke him up and he said, "Get out, the water is coming." And so he just got a couple of his scriptures, books which he had, and everything he left, and he came out. And within hours, the whole thing was wiped out. And the next day morning, some of us went and met him. He was staying with somebody else's place. And we kind of started telling him, "Oh, such a effort we put, such all this happened, and you lost that place, your kutir, and that." And we were talking more about his loss there, and he said, like he actually quoted this shloka, "Gata sunscha gatas, agata sunscha," meaning that you're grieving because I lost that building, that kutir I had, that house I had, huh? And I'm also inwardly grieving, thinking where I will go next, huh? But you're grieving for what is gone, and I'm grieving for what is here, still here. Meaning, like, I'm still not dead, right? I have to now think where I have to go. So he says both of us are deluded. He was telling he was giving that idea. Because many times we are grieving for ourselves. Even when we are alive, we are grieving, I have to do this, I have to do that, I have lost that. So both kind of that grieving comes from a wrong perception. So we may say, okay, this is too high spiritual thing, but in a very practical way also, when you lose something, you cannot do much, right? If somebody is dead, what can you do? Can you bring that person back to life? One of the lady went to Buddha when he was teaching, and he was become very famous by then. So she thought that he can do miracles. So she had lost her child, a very young child she had lost, and she said, I cannot live without my son who has died. And somebody said, go to Buddha. So she goes to Buddha and she tells him, can you bring back my son? I cannot live without him. There's no way that my life will go on without him. So Buddha realized her condition and he told her, okay, you do one thing. You go get me a handful of mustard seeds or grains, from someone's house where no death has occurred. In someone's house, in their family where nobody has died. So she goes around, she asks, some people say somebody died, somebody died. Then some people say recently nobody has died, in our house. But in our family, somebody would have died in the past. Somebody has died, some grandfather, some great grandfather has died. So death is the reality, of life. As long as there is birth, there will be death to the body. But the point here is more than that. The point that Lord is starting off with is much more profound. What is that point? And this is the next shloka. He says, Natve vaham jatunasam natvam neme janadipaha. Huh? There was really no existence to you and me as this separate entity, as this body. Like we are saying now with reference that you are Arjuna, I am Krishna, and all these kings and all these people are there, So, but in reality, this is a relative truth. It is a relative truth that you exist, I exist. From that context of that pure consciousness, there is no you and me. So this is where Shankaracharya's Bhashya starts here. The until now, none of the acharyas have actually given Bhashyas. Of course, Shankaracharya didn't give; some acharyas gave later on. But until this shloka, there was no commentary by Shankaracharya, and many other acharyas also didn't on that. So he basically says, what was the problem with Arjuna? When he starts giving this teaching, he explains what is that thing that Arjuna was going through. He says Arjuna was going through shoka moha, meaning he was going through sorrow and delusion, or we can say that ignorance caused sorrow, or the deluded, under delusion, he had fallen under sorrow. And what is the nature of this sorrow? This is ahamesham mama eti iti. Evam bhranti pratyaya nimitta, he says, Shankaracharya. Aham esham mama iti. This is me, these are mine, From there starts all problems, he says. Where do all our delusion problems start? The moment we assert, this is me, these are mine. We may say, but that is our natural understanding. How can that cause problem? See, the sense of division, when I start having this is separate from me, at a physical level, yeah, that is true. But at the emotional and mental level, when I start creating this, then that is where all this ragadvesha starts, attraction and aversion. I like these people because these are mine. I hate those people because they are not mine or they are against me. So where do these sense of craving and repulsion come, especially towards people? This comes from this, as he says, ahamesham mama iti. The moment we say this is me and these are I am this and these are mine. The moment I say I am this and this are mine, then all those Bhranti Darshana, he says. This is a deluded notion starts coming. Of course, from a physical sense, Vyavahar transaction, we have to do that. But if in a deep sense of our understanding, if we are clinging on to that, that is the sure cause of anxiety, fear, anger, or all those emotions. If you trace back all emotions, this is the root of it. And this is what Shankaracharya is pointing out. What the Lord is trying to remind him is that you are deluded in this thing. So here, when it says that you should not grieve, that is coming from three perspectives. The first is a very practical perspective. If somebody dies, you have to move on with life. So why are you grieving for these people, even if they die? The war will happen and somebody will die, so you have to move on. The second level of teaching is that that if you take a relative kind of religion perspective, when a person dies, something is going to move on, right? We all say this, like whether you believe in reincarnation or you go to heaven or hell, huh? The soul will move on, we say. What is the soul here? Soul is what we call as a jiva. That jiva is going to move on. It will go to some higher plane or another plane. If it's done bad deeds, it will go to lower plane. If it has done good deeds, it will go to higher plane. So this is the second level of reality. So what is the point in grieving? It is moving on and on its journey. The third reason why we should not grieve, he says, is the highest thing. He says, because the reality is that there is no such thing as you and me. There is no such thing that was ever born, and there is no such thing that will ever die. That will come in another shloka. That moment we say something is born, then something will die. So we can say, that we celebrate birthday, but that birthday is not the birth of that Atma. That consciousness was not born on that day. The consciousness got embodied, identified with that body on that day. So when we say also, like, now Janmashtami will come this month. So we say we are also celebrating Lord Krishna's birth. August we celebrate Lord. So why can't we consider birth? So here again, when we celebrate Lord Krishna's birth, it is not that he has that consciousness or the pure Paramatma was born on that day. That consciousness was ever existing, and it just took that form of that body for that relative period to, of course, give these teachings and to do certain tasks. But there was no real born. So that is also the Nirvana Shataka. This is the na janma na mrityu. That is where it starts from. Neither one is never birth nor death. So this is where here the Lord is also telling us, nachaiva na bhavishyamaha sarve vayamatah param. Not there is nothing that was ever there as that individual, and nor is it that we will all cease to exist. So in other words, neither were we born nor will we kind of die in that sense. There is no birth, no death, or that consciousness. That consciousness is ever there. That is that understanding that he starts giving up to Arjuna. And now the next mantra is an example of that. He gives an illustration. What is that illustration? See here. We say dehinosmin yata dehe kaumaram yomanam jara. So there was a boy. Let's say he was born. Maybe a boy or a girl. Let's say she was born on a certain day and she was young. And when she was 8 years old, somebody took a picture of her. Then she became a youth, Yavanam. She became youth and she looks completely different. And then she's old, wrinkles and all that thing. Doesn't look anywhere. Then somebody brings her a picture of, see, when you are 8 years old. Is this you? She says, yeah, that is me. So now, who is that me? Everything in that body has changed. All the cells of the body has changed. The person no longer looks that thing. So who is that me that has remained constant all through this? Whether you are a boy or a young girl or a young adult or an old person, we always say, I am like this. And they say, even when you're old, the deep that person as such doesn't feel old. huh? Of course, when the body aches and all that happens, but that consciousness always remains as it is. And that similarly, a young boy or a young girl, they necessarily don't have that idea that they are young, they are small. Physically, we keep asserting to them, you're young, you're young. So that consciousness never feels that it is getting old, it is getting young, and all that. So this example here, the Lord is giving, Dehinosmin yata dehe kaumaram yo tata dehantara prapti derastatra namuyati. So similarly, a wise person who has this understanding, who has this realization, what do? They are not deluded by this. They are not deluded that the consciousness, that soul or atma, jiva, or whatever is aging and it is going through this and it will die and it will be lost. That continuity is not continuity of consciousness, is never interrupted through all this. And this is the realization that a person with that proper understanding will have. So here is where, relative level, that sometimes that understanding may be lost in our life. But as long as that wisdom is there, this becomes that that go-to kind of philosophy in our life. So usually, they say that when people are going through problems and all that, why is it that some people are able to withstand? They are more supposed to be resilient. Of course, today there are a lot of scientific research also on all this. Some people are able to withstand, they're able to be resilient to different conditions better than other people, physically also and mentally also when they go through that. So, what is it? So, of course, it is their practices and all that, but more importantly, their underlying philosophy of life. What do they hold to has an underlying philosophy or understanding or vision, darshan we say. What is your underlying darshan? huh? Based on that is how, so you might temporarily, there might be grief or there might be some kind of upheavals, but that resetting, that we reset back to a standard level of our understanding and we abide in that. So that is based on where we have constantly held on to our beliefs, or our not just beliefs, our realized kind of beliefs. So this is where he's actually giving these three shlokas to start off from. So the first shloka, as he mentioned, is there's also this point here as he starts that shloka. He says, "Ashochya nanva shochastvam." He's talking of what tvam. By tvam, whom is he referring to? Tvam generally means you in Sanskrit. So when it says you, whom should we take it as referring to? Anybody?
Is it Atma?
Why is it Atma?
It is not the body. It is not the name. It is not Arjuna. He is talking about his Atma.
Yeah. So here, anybody else?
The self.
Huh?
Referring to the self.
Self. Okay. Yeah, okay. So here actually, when we say Tvam, it is as I mentioned, if you know this first 6 chapters, or if you take the Tattvamasi, it is referring to that Tvam. So we are going to discover in these 6 chapters more prominently on what is the nature of the self, what is the nature of Atma. So Here he's going to be talking about he's introducing that. He's introducing this topic. What is the self about? What is this Atma about? That nature of this Atma is going to be given to us in these verses. So that is why, like Shocha Nanva Shochastvam. And then the next one also you can say, Natve Vaham. There also it is that you or aham, that sense of you. So of course, you here, it doesn't just mean Arjuna, it means all of us who are on the path to self-discovery, trying to understand ourselves. So he's going to introduce that to us. And of course, one more point that he mentions there is that how, the that person that who realizes that dhiras tatra na muyati. So that grief comes to that person who is taking that self as the body. The grief doesn't come to that person who is taking that self as pure consciousness, which is beyond birth and death. So the person who has realized that, dhira, literally, dhira means a brave person, but here dhira means one who has done the viveka, the one who has done that discernment, what is real, what is unreal. So that body is the unreal entity. The Atma is a real entity from that spiritual perspective. So as long as we take that unreal to be real, if we take that body to be real, as do most people in the world, then we are also caught up in that delusion. Okay. So this is, we will just look at this now. We will see if there was any Manana Shloka. So the Manana Shloka for 11 is basically where he's talking about how Arjuna was speaking like an intelligent person. What is he referring to when Arjuna was speaking about as an intelligent person? Anybody remembers? What was that sense? What was the wisdom that Arjuna was trying to give and to justify his argument why he should not fight? What was that? What is Lord? What is Krishna referring to that has that wisdom that Arjuna was using? Anybody?
Dharma.
Very good. Dharma. What did you say? Dharma.
Adharma. He was speaking
Dharma.
about this is the.
Correct. So he was referring to this as the dharma, adharma. So this is the right, that is that right. That is wrong. So that understanding that he was referring to is based on that what is that dharma and adharma? What is it? To whom does the dharma and adharma belong from that relative sense? Dharma and adharma is also belonging to some entity. Is it the body or is it the Atma?
The body.
With more specifically, we can be relative. The Dharma and adharma goes on beyond life also.
The Jiva.
Jiva. Why is it the Jiva?
The Jiva is subject to the karmas, the actions, the samskaras.
Yeah. So it is a jiva. The jiva continues on life after life. It carries forth that. See that stock of karma. It is in the subtle mind. It is not in the gross mind. The body will die. That whatever karma you have, it will not. If it was in the body, then it should go away. It is in the subtle mind, the subtle sharira. So that is the jiva, and that journeys life after life. But here, why is see that if you like the three levels of truth here. The first level of truth is the body, which material person will take the body as the truth, right? So then what? There is no life after death for that person. The second logic is where Arjuna was giving. So it is a wiser logic, wiser knowledge than the material world life, material world knowledge. So he's saying there is a Sukshma Sharira and I will be subject to dharma, adharma, and that will cause me problems. He's telling, and that is why I won't fight. Now, God, Lord is giving another higher level of knowledge. What is he saying? Even this jiva that you are thinking about, this dharma and adharma that belongs to this jiva, but this Bhishma, Drona, and all these people are not the jiva in essence. They are the pure consciousness. They are that Atma. So even there, that your wisdom is a relative wisdom. There's a higher wisdom. Okay, so based on that, there is a Mananam questions. Basically, the Mananam questions says about how, am I brave enough to do that which is difficult, or do I tend to take the easy way out? And can I learn to see the virtues and honor the spirit by practicing those? So when somebody dies, or somebody moves away, the ideal way to honor them is to honor their higher virtues of life. Then what happens? We are shifting attention of them as a physical body. If we just think of them as physical body, then okay, they are gone. But if you think of their qualities, that's a way to shift. So when we think about these things, we can introspect on those lines. Of course, the questions will be sent. Any comments, questions people have?
Swamiji, I had a question.
Yeah, well,
So you mentioned, if I'm not wrong, 3 points about what is the point of grieving.
yeah.
So one is, since individual jiva keeps on moving to body, so it's okay. We don't have to grieve. Other is there's no such thing as you and me. And the third point was,
No, what is the second one you say?
second is there's no such thing as you and me. This you and me is not there. And the third
No,
was,
that is the third one actually. The first one is a practical one, right? Like as I gave that example of Buddha and that lady. So when somebody dies, at some point or the other, we have to reconcile. This is a reality of life. No? It is a more like a very practical kind of I think that sadness by us being sad, it will not change things. The second one is that the jiva will continue. So that person whomsoever, like that is what we say, right? Our thing, this person is gone, is no more, is gone. Or we say, may you rest in peace. So there is some kind of understanding. There is somebody who will rest after this, somebody who will. So that is the jiva we are talking about. And then the final thing is there is no such thing as death itself. Nothing ever happened actually. There was no birth in the first place, what we also call from Mandukya as Ajatavada. There was really no birth for consciousness. It is only from our relative delusion we say there is birth and death,
Swami,
Yeah, Lavia.
I was thinking it was really interesting for me to think about something when you were talking. For example, it's like these slokas, they are saying that there is this ahankara level, nah? This I, my,
Yes.
and there is the order, the law, nah? The dharma. And Krishna is talking, please don't be caught, don't be caught, in this ahankara level, and try to see the order, to follow what you must do.
Yes,
no?
Yes, yeah.
It's like there is ahankara versus dharma somehow.
Yeah,
Can you understand?
Here the dharma here the Lord is talking about is not the relative dharma of good and bad. Here he is talking about the dharma which is in the highest level, meaning what is from a spiritual dharma. You have to do your duty at the relative level. In this relative level, you have to do. There, you cannot say that that this is what. If I do this, I will get sins. I will get this one. So that what appears as sins, as wrong, because you will suffer from that. That also is a kind of a delusion. That is kind of a sense of wanting to have a better life after death. All that is also, it's kind of a delusion. It's kind of a self-centered attitude, like what you said as ahankara. So here he has to fulfill his role, his duty. And that role, as you said, that is a dharma. He has to follow the dharma. So like, even like, for example, if you are working for an organization, they say, right, you should not seek for your personal glory. You should work for the well-being of the organization. So similarly here, the Lord is telling him, you have to fight because all these people are dependent on you. That point you mentioned is good. Yeah, it is not for your ahankara, that you will get good merit, bad merit. That is not what you should think about. Yeah. Anybody else? Okay. So we will leave it at this. Can say a closing prayer. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So just a quick note, as many of you know that that there is that WhatsApp group is there.